Sonny Jim, Sonny Jim, Sonny Jim.
Sonny Jim was a passion project for me. From the day I wrote the song, I always envisaged in my mind how the video would be. There were about 2 years between writing the song and everything being completed. The journey of the video was a lot of fun for me. The first job was building the main set, which were the World War I trenches and no man's land. I had an empty field behind my house which was going to serve as a blank canvas to work from. First I had to do research on what World War I trenches actually looked like. I researched through a lot of old historic World War I photos.
Don't leave me.
The first step in constructing the set was clearing the ground of all the grass and gorse. This was a bit of a mission. Hey, this is the preparation for Sonny Jim, and it is all going to plan, going to be filmed in this paddock here. So this is it here. At the moment it's just a whole bunch of gorse and grass and work.
This is me weed eating it all to get it done.
Okay, well after maybe about a week of weed eating, I'm on the last bit just here. Last bit. Once the field was all clear, I marked out where the trenches were going to be and got the digger in. So we're digging the trenches for Sonny Jim. For the war scene, we've got the one trench here and then the other trench is going to be up there. And yeah, should be pretty cool.
Let's start running to 100,000 bullets coming. Sonny Jim, it's been real nice, but we better say our goodbyes.
After this I had to spray all the remaining grass to make it look like a dead war zone. If it's a war zone, we can't have grass. Living grass, so got my sprayer and I'm basically spraying this whole paddock. No World War I trench is complete without sandbags, so the next step was filling hundreds of sandbags. I'm doing 2 sandbags high all around here. We'll see how they go. I might do 3. We kind of need this bit here, the sandbags to be visible above this rise along here. So yeah, good fun. After this I built ladders. I found old timber at a hardware store that was already old and weathered, and this worked quite well. Okay, so we are building the ladders. Starting off with 6, and they're actually all done. And yeah, they should be fine. I got some old 50 by 50 timber that already looks quite old and weathered. So if we leave that out in the weather for 6 weeks, if I'm not filming for 6 weeks, it should be pretty good once we're done. I then started getting props for the trench and it was starting to look a bit more authentic. I've got this old stretcher and I found it from an old lantern. This is actually a proper old lantern they used to use. Close to it, a old canvas sack, I had a bit of those. And I've got these mess tins. That's about the shape they had, but it's not exactly right. These ones here kind of aren't really, but only the discerning viewer will know. Corrugated iron always works well in trenches, so I added a few across the top of the trenches to add some interest to it. We also built a dugout at the end of the trench to make it look more authentic, and also so that we could film around the corner and into something without looking like it terminated unusually. We're building a like a little room on the end of the trench, just as a, I don't know, officer's cabin or something. And it's it's going to have like a nice iron door and an iron roof with sandbags over it. We've built this little room on the end of the trench here, so you can kind of come in here, and then yeah, put maybe a table down here. This stuff here we're going to paint all that brown, so it doesn't show up that bad. And all this pink stuff we'll paint that brown. I also wanted a few other old items around the trench to give it a better look. We built what we wanted to look like an old burnt down shed and old fences. None of this ended up in the main shoot, but it was there if we needed to use it. Next, I turned my attention to the German trench and also the no man's land area. I wasn't planning on filming much in the German trench, so I just put sandbags along the top. Somewhere in no man's land, I realised I needed barbed wire. There was an old farm across the road that had a lot of old rusty barbed wire that was over 100 years old, so we went there and collected that. I then built a barbed wire fence using the barbed wire and old tree stumps. I kind of took a little bit of creative license and I used old tree stumps that I had laying around because I think they look a bit more cinematic to film from. I'm thinking I might film through these wires, like, you know, that way over at that trench, stuff like that. That might look quite cool. Rocks. Look at this. just rocks everywhere. You put your shovel in it, shovel there. It's just clang, clang, clang. Rocks. My hands took a bit of a beating. The next thing that the no man's land area needed was to be duggen up a bit. I hired a rotary hoe and dug up the ground with that. The rotary hoe worked okay, but I felt like it didn't do a good enough job, so I hired a digger and dug up the ground with that instead. So I've dug in all up there, right up the top there, all around the front here, over there. So we've just got a bit more to go down here, and I'm gonna go back over that way as far as I can. But yeah, it's actually going pretty sweet. By the end of this, the barren field that we started with was looking a lot more like a war zone. The next process was getting hold of World War I uniforms. I needed to get 15 complete New Zealand World War I uniforms for the shoot. At the local costume shops, I did manage to find 15 old World War I helmets. These were all different colours, so I painted them all the same colour. That one there is the colour that it's going to be, which is this paint here. That's about the closest. Matte finish, kind of opaque green that I could find. So yep, we've got 12 here, and there's another 3 still to come, so 15 all up. The uniforms and guns were proving a bit harder to come by, but after a bit of research, I found a guy that, through him and people he knew, could provide all the uniforms and guns that we needed. Now, moving away from the trenches for a bit, I'll take you through what I call the home scene, and then we'll get back to the trenches. The home scene in the song I always envisaged would be filmed in the South Island of New Zealand. The chorus of the song says, "To where the wind blows down the valley, and I hear it as it whistles through the willows by the river." In my mind, this always described the South Island Central Otago area. One of the planned scenes involved me riding a horse. This proved to be a small problem because I couldn't ride a horse. So before we left down south, I took horse riding lessons. Apparently the best way to learn to ride a horse is ride it bareback. So I've had to walk this horse around bareback and trot and canter bareback. And then once I can do that, then I can have a saddle. Once this was complete, we flew down south to film the home scene.
Yep.
Okay, so we are heading down to Queenstown to film the home scenes and bits and pieces. And it's looking like a real good day out there. A bit noisy. We are just got off the airport. How's it? Just got to Queenstown, so it's a nice day for filming.
We arrived at our first location and everything was going well until we set up to film. At this point we realised that most of our batteries were gone. You see, we had put all of our batteries into our check luggage because we thought they were under the power rating of what they could be to go into check luggage. Unfortunately they weren't, and when they went through security, the airline company took all of our batteries out and held them back at the airport. It was when we arrived at the scene to begin shooting that we realised that all our batteries were gone. During this part of the shoot, we were planning on using a Canon 5D, a Ronin stabilizer, and a DJI drone. When we looked at what we had left, we realised we only had one drone battery, no stabilizer batteries, and some Canon batteries. Matt, the camera operator, came up with a great idea to stabilize the Canon 5D without having any stabilization. He put the strap around his neck, pushed it out, and then it pulled against his neck and created 3 points of stabilization. This is how we filmed all the home scenes, with one drone battery and an unstabilized camera. We filmed the horse scenes first. Over the next 2 days, we filmed the home scene and the field scenes.
That's home. Home sweet home. And yeah, coastline and stuff like that. So it's actually really good. The scene itself is very good. It's really interesting, and we've got quite a lot of space around us to a lot of filmable background. So yeah.
While we were filming in this remote location, it's worth mentioning that not far up the road we found a cool little cafe. So we're at Mrs. Willie's General Store in Glenorchy, and it's the best little cafe you've ever seen. It's got such cool, nice food in there and stuff. And Matt has struck the jackpot with this
pork belly pie with crackland.
They were all sold out yesterday, so we came here early this morning to get them quick. And before we left for Wellington, he got another one for the road. Matt's got a precious piece of cargo here.
Precious.
You remember we talked about the pork, what was it?
Pork belly pie.
Yeah, the pork belly pie. Well, he couldn't resist. On our way back, he got a frozen one to take home. When we got back up to Wellington, despite all the obstacles we had with having no batteries and no stabilisation, I felt like the shots all came out well and we had enough to make the video. The trench scene was booked to be filmed 2 weeks after we arrived back in Wellington. It was all going to plan until 2 days before we were set to film. New Zealand went into level 4 lockdown to combat the coronavirus. We've had a bit of a delay in filming because of the COVID-19 situation, but it's been kind of good because it means that all of this area can kind of start to look a bit weathered. But we just had a whole bunch of rain for about 2 days and it's actually filled up the trenches, so I think we're going to have to I guess wait for these to empty out, drain out before we film here. But yeah, if you can see that, that's pretty deep, and it goes, sort of starts way back over here. You get a pretty bad case of trench foot if you're walking in that. During the lockdown, we had quite a few people staying in our lockdown bubble, so I decided to take this opportunity and do some pre-shooting in the set and planning out all the shoots. Because of the nature of the set, I had limited angles that I could film from, so we could avoid a lot of the unwanted background. I did have a lot of blue screen up, but this wasn't going to cover everything, and I preferred not to use blue screen if I could help it. Over a couple of days, I did a lot of pre-shooting, and I felt like it was all going to work quite well. Here is a bit of the pre-shoot that we did. A lot of the main video we shot exactly the same way.
From my window I can see the sunrise as it climbs over the mountain peaks. When I close my eyes I hear the dawn chorus singing in my ear. I don't remember her if I've shown you, but here's my wife I want to get back home to.
Once the coronavirus lockdown had finished, we set a new date for filming and could get underway. Filming day came and it was a lot of fun. We started nice and early because we had to dress up all the actors in their costumes, go through all the health and safety measures, and still get to the trenches quite early to film in one day. On the day the weather was nice, but it was a little too nice. We really needed overcast, dull skies to film. This look would suit a World War I trench scene. Bright light and harsh shadows wouldn't work. As a result of this, for the morning session, because of all the bright sun, we could only film all the close-up scenes. We used a cutter to block the sun. At about 2 o'clock, the sun disappeared behind the hills and created shadows over the whole set. So from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, we basically filmed most of the video. We had to go really fast to get it all done. All the actors and crew were great and they worked tirelessly to get it all finished. 5 o'clock came around and we just finished filming the last scene. For those of us that were involved from the start, it was the end of a very long journey. The last scene was completed and we called it a wrap.
Okay, everybody, I am very pleased to announce that it's a wrap. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. Everyone, thank you to the armorists. Thanks to everyone. It's been awesome. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, group photos.
It was a long journey that spanned a few years, but in the end I felt like what I saw on the screen was what I had in my mind years ago. I hope you enjoy watching it as much as I did putting it all together.
Take my hand and carry me home to where the wind blows down the valley, and I hear it as it whistles through the willows by